you may not be the only one watching TV on your IPTV box.
So, George, I was talking about a movie script, but you have something to say about IPTV?
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. It's nothing quite as interesting as the spy story, but it's kind of a new way to look at how scanners on the internet and botnets are looking at IPTVs. And in this case, rather than just finding a set that's online, right, with that has a vulnerability that they can take advantage of, right, and make part of their botnet. The SANS Institute, some of their security engineers have a honeypot up, and they were noticing traffic that were looking for very specific IPTV boxes, and it came down to the fact that they weren't trying to convert those boxes into botnets, but they were trying to actually look at those boxes and try to see if there was any videos, movies, or any kind of streaming capability that they can get from those boxes. And then, I guess at some point either make it part of another streaming site that makes those movies available or those shows available at no charge to other viewers that would normally you would need to subscribe for, right? There are tons of streaming sites that would host these kinds of shows, movies, sporting events. Let's say, for instance, Dan, you paid for a pay-per-view, if that's even what they call it still. And one of these bots went out, found your device, found that it was vulnerable, popped the vulnerability, and accessed that recording and streamed it to a bunch of other people who were accessing it from another place. So I found that pretty interesting, right? Because we always think of botnets just finding other bots, finding other weak or vulnerable machines online, making them part. And I'm sure these will eventually become part of this botnet that could be used for many things like DDoS or deploying other bots, right? But in this case, the funny thing about this particular story, so there was a company that made one specific type of software for these IP sets. And since IPTV became popular years ago, a lot of people started creating their own kind of companies, and they would sell, here's an IPTV box, like a Roku type of thing, but charge very little for it and get you to subscribe to their service. And, boom, they have you as a customer. So there was one specific company, apparently, that was creating these boxes, and their software portal, what they were doing was they were capturing all of the viewing data, right, from the people viewing the software. So it would be an equivalent to, what was it called back in the day? It'll pop into my head, where back in like the 80s, you would put this box on your TV set, right, and would capture what you're watching, and it would send it off to another company, and they were able to get statistics that way to see the viewership, right? So nowadays, companies who have IP-connected TVs, it's capturing all that data, what you're watching, when you're watching it, how often do you record it, do you fast forward commercials? So one software developer created this front end, right, that was for an IPTV box, but did it with the intention of capturing all of your viewing data and selling it off to advertisers. And they got a little out of hand with what they called their portal. In this case, they called it the Stalker portal, which is pretty ironic considering they kind of stalking you as you're going on your day-to-day watching routines, right? If they see you watch a specific sport, they'll sell that information to advertisers who will bless you with all kinds of advertising for pay-for services. And in this case, the way they found that the actual software or the front end was called Stalker Portal is they captured some of the GET requests coming from these bots that were looking for very specific files that would be located on these set-top boxes that would give the bots the version number of the software to find out if it's malicious. And if it was a certain file, a certain release, or a certain version, they would pop it. And then they can pull down movies that are on there. They can pull down your viewing data, because it was all packaged up nicely by this other company whose intention wasn't malicious, but their intention was to make money off of your viewership, right? To use you as sorry to keep saying you, but you know what I mean, to use the person watching. So a lot of these requests coming into the honeypot had the file task structure, and Stalker portal was the parent directory. And then under that were all the actual other directories where they would find, whatever else was on that box, right? Whatever software, whatever libraries we needed to run that front end. So yeah, it's, nothing crazy, nothing extravagant, but I think the fact that, these bots are out there just trying to pull whatever it is that you're watching and push it off to somebody else, which also could be a bandwidth thing, right? The actual research doesn't really get into that so much as the fact that, people could be pulling streams off of your set-top boxes while you're watching it and providing it to somebody else. And then a side note that I thought was funny too was that the software was called Stalker Portal, when it's pretty much what they're doing, right? In a legal way, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't know if you had any funny remarks or or you're into botnets a lot more than me, so.
Yeah, so I was just curious. So this is like a piece of software you will install on your IPTV box, or this is like an IPTV box you would buy or get from someone that had this kind of an app on it that would allow, is that right?
Yeah, so this is just, if you went online and purchased an IPTV box, set-top box that took an Ethernet cable, you plug Ethernet into the back, it's an IP, and then it provides you with certain applications, YouTube, whatever applications you want to run. That specific box would have this software already built in, which would then capture all the viewing data and send it off to whoever the owner of that equipment is.
And also the what you're watching, they would send that off as well? Is that
so this is where the botnet comes in. No, that's not part of the actual software itself, but the botnet would look for vulnerability in specific versions, because these are typically they're not like Roku boxes or popcorn or anything or Apple TVs, obviously. These are kind of mainly Android based, or kind of like these companies that would just pop up, right? And figure, you know what, let's jump on this IPTV bandwagon, let's make a few bucks, let's create a product, or maybe they want to make it big at some point. So they're not updated very frequently. They're not looking for patches, right? So these boxes are kind of just left out there, like an old version of Android that just doesn't get updated anymore. So it makes them easy to find. And whoever developed the front end for this software created the file structure with this specific, I guess originally they called it Stalker just to be, actually, I stand corrected. So when they created it and they called it the Stalker software. And when they were getting funding to kind of go a little further with it, the people who were providing the funding changed that name right away and said, no, you cannot call your IPTV set Stalker something. We need to change this because it's not going to portray. You're not going to get a lot of people to buy into your product if you're already calling it Stalker. So they changed it, but they never changed the file structure within the software. They changed the name, but never changed the file path. And this is where then the botnets came in. If they would have never pumped these, if the honeypot would have never captured these requests, they would have never seen this. This topic, I guess, would have never really come up because it's not really interesting. But it's kind of funny that they found Stalker Portal as the actual original. So there's kind of two things to this, right? There's the you buy a product thinking not knowing that they're taking your viewing data and selling it off to advertisers. And then on top of that, somebody's taking advantage of it from another angle and possibly pulling streams from your connection.
I guess, yeah, it is interesting. So it sounds like they were able to discover with their honeypot all of this, I guess, weird activity, stalking the stalker almost, right? Like looking for potentially vulnerabilities in these, I guess, in this Stalker interface or whatever for some of these IPTV setup boxes. I guess what's interesting to me is the unconventional way that maybe is proposed. I don't know if it actually they observed it happening or not, but it's interesting the potential unconventional way that the adversaries might do this. You know, when we think about botnets, we think about like maybe DDoS attacks. That's certainly one of the things that we frequently think associated with botnets. But stealing your TV streams, that's kind of something brand new, I think. So I think what that lets me know is everyone is very creative. You know, like the person who created the Stalker interface, he was creative in the sense of how can I give away something for free, yet at the same time monetize that, which how can I make it be popular? So there's some creativity there in selling the advertising data, but for the bad guys who are taking advantage of the potential vulnerabilities in Stalker, which I don't know if there are any or not, but sounds like there potentially could be. It's creative that they might decide to steal these streams and possibly resell them. I guess another way to think about these devices that you buy that are low cost is you should be very careful about what you select to bring into your home environment. A lot of home networks now have really become just a potpourri of little devices that you procure, like a laptop, an iPad, an IPTV setup box, and really most people have unwittingly, I think, become network administrators in their own homes. Like I think I now manage like almost 50 or 60 different devices in my home without realizing it. And I became a little like network admin, right? Just from little thermostat, the camera. So much going on. I think the same has happened to everyone else, but this might be a reminder, when you bring in these low-cost devices into your network, you have to be very careful about how you expose them to the internet, and you have to just really trust the underlying software in your network, because most people, even if they have that nice firewall out there, especially in the consumer-grade networks, even if you have that nice firewall protecting you from the outside world, you might have a device that's kind of untrusted inside your house. And that device can actually probably, most people probably don't VLAN everything away, don't separate the devices internally. That device could probably access other things in your home, things that maybe you don't expect them to. So I guess another reminder, just the story made me think of that. Another reminder to take seriously the kinds of devices you introduce into your home, and trying to segregate your home network from each other. That will probably be good things to start thinking about for most of us consumers out there who don't have this like enterprise level infrastructure and monitoring built in.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point you bring up, Stan. I'll be quick with this one. Is that once they're in that set-top box, right? Who's to say they're not going to say, let's just poke around and okay, it's not like dropping ransomware on a major corporation, right? Who has tremendous amount of funds where it would make it like a reasonably good idea. You have a lot of script kiddies out there that just want to really make people's lives difficult. And if they can walk laterally and they can find a NAS or another PC that has tons of pictures, right, like terabytes of photos, you never know. It doesn't take much to drop encryption on there, drop ransomware, and you'll have a bad day. So segmenting the network, And I know a lot of routers nowadays, when you buy them, they allow for what they call guest networks. And if somebody's not familiar with LAN segmentation, VLANing, it's very easy to just put all of your IoT stuff on that guest network and leave your home PCs and laptops on the main network. They require very little configuration. It's already segmented, and all of the IoT thermostats, light bulbs, will all be on the guest network and never communicating with your stuff. So that's an excellent point to take from all this. And think twice before buying that much cheaper version of those colorful lights from Amazon, as opposed to maybe buying the one from Philips, because it's three times as more money. But the support is there, and the updates are there, as opposed to the cheaper one, you know.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the things to think through when you're making any kind of purchases. You know, the support, infrastructure, and the quality as well. Yeah.